Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So let us start with the analysis video for Sunday, that is 21st of May 2023. So we'll just take up all the important things. So here it's all political news. In this picture, you can see the Central Reserve Police Force commandos. They are conducting a security drill on the Dal Lake because there's going to be a G20 meeting, which is scheduled in Srinagar from 22nd of May. And this meeting would be around tourism. So tourism working group would be holding a meeting there in Srinagar. Apart from that, India, it will do its best to end this Russia-Ukraine war. So there was a meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Zelensky, who is the president of Ukraine. So this was on the sidelines of the G7 summit, which is happening in Hiroshima in Japan. बट इससे रिगार्डिंग हमारे लिए क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है कि इंडिया का क्या स्टैंड रहा है एज फार एज दिस वॉर इज कंसर्न्ड व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट आवर फॉरेन पॉलिसी सो ऑल ऑफ दैट इज मच मोर इम्पोर्टेंट rather than this piece of article. So here it is a state-specific scheme, which is from the state of Chhattisgarh. So the scheme is regarding basically Nyay. So Rajiv Gandhi Kisan Nyay Yojana and all the details are mentioned. So it is like, again, it is just state-specific, so not much important for us. So center seeks review of the Supreme Court verdict on the Delhi government powers. Because jo Supreme Court ki judgment rahi, that was in favor of the Delhi government. So that's why center seeks a review of that judgment. So petition says ki judgment, it has upset the basic tenets of the constitutional idea of federalism and has equated the entity of Delhi to a state by granting it legislative and executive authority. So this is what the center sees at the judgment that has been delivered by the Supreme Court. कि जो basic tenets of constitutional idea of federalism hai, that has been like disturbed because of this judgment. So that's why they are seeking a review of it. So center's review plea in the Supreme Court says कि judgment wholly ignores that the nominee of the president, that is the LG, or the central government, they are also manifestations of democracy. So because Supreme Court की judgment ने ये बोला कि final जो power रहेगी, final authority as far as control over the bureaucrats which are posted in Delhi and which are working on the government of the Delhi, Union Territory of Delhi, the control would be there in the hands of that particular government and not in the central government. So this is the thing around it. And apart from this, here it has been talking about Article 309. So center said that Article 309 of the Constitution clearly distinguished between the center and the state services. So this article becomes important for us, and specifically in the state civil services examination, they ask such kind of factual questions. Moving forward, so let's see what all important articles are there. So Quad leaders expressed deep concern over the consequences of the Ukraine war. So you need to know ki what else are the consequences of the Ukraine war apart from the economic consequences, which are obviously the most common one, which everybody knows about. So how it is, causing a reshaping, reordering of the geopolitical order. That is also very important. So there are several consequences. You can divide them under different subheads, and this is a very important question that you need to know. So at special meet, which was held in Hiroshima, Japan, which was the G7 summit happening there, India, Japan, the US, Australia, they recognize a serious impact on the global economic system. Definitely, there are economic impacts because of this war. And joint statement, it also opposes the unilateral actions that threatened to disturb the peace in the Indo-Pacific region. So geopolitically and economically, they are the major consequences of this war. So India stands for respecting sovereignty, adherence to international law, says our Prime Minister. So India advocated for dialogue and diplomacy to resolve this Russia-Ukraine conflict. And as I told you in the very beginning as well, that what has been India's stand regarding this war, how we have been able to balance between our interests as far as between the Western world and Russia is concerned. On the world page, we see floods in Italy, so all because of the climate change. 14 people have been died and over 36,000 people have been displaced because of these floods in northeast Italy. Apart from that, Nepal Prime Minister Prachanda says his visit to India will script new history. So India-Nepal relations, they become important. And Taiwan President vows to keep status quo on the cross-strait relations. So you need to know Taiwan Strait, the geography, the important water bodies around this region, because this has been in news for a very long time. So situation is critical as far as this Russia-Ukraine war is concerned, because Wagner claims that Bakhmut region that has been captured, but Kyiv is saying the fight is still ongoing and it has not been captured. So differing stand of both the parties. You need to find out more about the Wagner group, what kind of body, what kind of group it is, and it is involved in which all kind of activities. So you need to have clarity regarding that. WHO's global network to detect threat from the diseases. So the WHO, it launched a global network that would be helping swiftly detect the threat from infectious diseases like COVID-19 and share the relevant information to prevent their spread in future. So this platform or this global network, it has been named as the International Pathogen Surveillance Network. So it can come up in prelims in the form of that it has been launched by which body. So it goes for WHO. So it will be providing a platform for connecting countries and regions and improving the systems for collecting and analyzing the samples. So this is a step forward in order to deal with future pandemics. Coming to the science page, so here global polio targets set for this year unlikely to be met. So here we're talking about polio. So you need to know which kind of disease is it, like it is because of virus or bacteria. So it is caused by a virus. So since 1988, when the World Health Assembly, so you need to know more about the functions and what is the position as far as the World Health Assembly is concerned. It is part of which body. So all of that is important. So it has established the Global Polio Eradication Initiative in 1988. Wild polio virus subtype 2 and subtype 3, they have been successfully eradicated now. So wild polio virus subtype 2 and subtype 3, they've been completely eradicated. So the number of wild polio virus cases across the world, they have sharply dropped by more than 99.9%. So today, only Afghanistan and Pakistan, these are the only two countries in the world where indigenous wild polio virus subtype 1 transmission still continues uninterrupted. So this is a fact, and you need to know about this. From last year, we've been seeing that cases are on a rise. So the number of wild polio virus subtype reported from Afghanistan and Pakistan, they shot up to 22 from just 5 cases. And that is one update. So the cases are on rise in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So it's a cause of concern. And that these are all the important facts that are important for us. The novel host-directed molecules blunt SARS-CoV-2 and influenza virus. So virus can develop resistance against the antivirals, while drugs that target the host cells to prevent the virus infection, they can remain effective even when the virus evolves. So even that is also a possibility. So hope for host-directed therapy. So host-directed therapy, it is vastly different from antivirals that are directed at viruses. So this is a kind of a technique or a process to treat. It's basically a therapy to treat the viral infections. So this is named as host-directed therapy. So it is basically, it functions differently from the antiviral drugs which are administered to treat any viral diseases. So till date, no approved host-directed drugs. They are available for either influenza or SARS-CoV-2 viruses. Unlike antivirals that become largely ineffective once the virus develops the drug resistance. So you need to know about the drug resistance thing also. So Once basically this is a challenge specifically in antivirals. So drugs which are used in the host directed therapy, they still remain efficient, and there is no such instance of drug resistance in case of this new therapy. So the small molecules which are developed, they are effective against both influenza and SARS-CoV-2 viruses while not being toxic to mice cells. So mice challenged with SARS-CoV-2 virus followed by treatment using the new molecules had better body weight recovery and improved lung pathology. And while influenza virus developed resistance to Tamiflu after prolonged exposure, virus continue to remain sensitive to the new molecules. So this is, we can say, a promising thing which can help us in future in dealing with the viral diseases. So compared with the molnupiravir, two novel molecules which are tested on animals against the SARS-CoV-2 virus show greater efficiency. Coming to the FAQ page here, this is recently we saw that Supreme Court had the judgment release the verdict regarding the Jallikattu thing. So it basically upheld and the ban, it has basically not banned this Jallikattu practice, which is celebrated kind of a festival in the state of Tamil Nadu. So it is talking about ki how Supreme Court has validated the Tamil Nadu's stand on Jallikattu. However, we have discussed the topic before. We'll just go through uh, regarding it in brief. So why has the judgment brought cheer to Tamil Nadu government? Obviously, the judgment was in favor of the government and the supporters of the sport. Will it be applicable to similar races in other states? Yes, even that is possible, and that is true. So is the regulation preferred over a ban? कि मतलब दोनों में से regulation या completely उसको ban करना कौन सा ज्यादा better है? And how has the court dealt with the animal rights? So definitely it was one of the most important areas of the judgment. So Jallikattu, it is a traditional rural sport involving bulls, and it has received the judicial approval. So Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court ruled that amendment was made in the 2017 by Tamil Nadu Assembly to the Prevention the Cruelty to Animals Act of 1960, facilitating the smooth conduct of the sport with stringent regulations that is valid. सो जो तमिलनाडु स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने कुछ अमेंडमेंट्स किए थे 2017 में, बिकॉज इससे पहले भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जजमेंट आई थी जिसमें जल्लीकट्टू को कम्प्लीटली बैन कर दिया गया था, बट स्टिल ये एक कल्चरल एक्टिविटी है, पार्ट ऑफ द कल्चर है ऑफ द तमिलनाडु स्टेट एंड द पीपल, सो दे डिडंट वांट इट टू गेट बैंड। एंड उसके बाद उन्होंने एक अमेंडमेंट किया इन द प्रिवेंशन ऑफ क्रुएलिटी टू एनिमल्स एक्ट, एंड जिसमें बात की गई कि इट वुड बी स्ट्रिंजेंटली रेगुलेटेड, एंड जो एनिमल रहेगा उसको बेसिकली मिनिमम डैमेज या पेन कॉज किया जाएगा। सो स्ट्रिंजेंट रेगुलेशंस को इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया थ्रू दिस अमेंडमेंट, एंड अब जो रीसेंट जजमेंट है सुप्रीम कोर्ट में उसमें इस लॉ को constitutionally valid hold किया गया है. So court has thus selected the question whether sport should be disallowed on the ground कि it involves unnecessary cruelty to the animals and violates the animal rights. तो एक stand तो ये है कि क्या आप जल्लीकट्टू को बैन कर दो, saying कि ये unnecessary cruelty cause करता है and it is violating the animal rights. So verdict is also applicable to other sports which involves bovines in other states. So similar kind of sports बाकी states में भी practice किए जाते हैं, which is like in Karnataka and in Maharashtra. So even they have been upheld and they are not banned. So basically they continue. So यहाँ पे see पहले की जो judgment थी सुप्रीम कोर्ट में उसको इसको completely ban कर दिया गया था, saying that it is very cruel and it causes like cruelty to animals. So that's why it was banned. तमिलनाडु गवर्नमेंट का क्या रिस्पॉन्स रहा, उन्होंने अमेंडमेंट किए जो अभी हमने जस्ट देखा, एंड अब क्या सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जजमेंट या रूलिंग क्या बात कर रही है. सो बेसिकली जुडिशियल रिव्यू हम इसका बोल सकते हैं, इट हैज ओवरटर्न्ड इट्स अर्लियर जजमेंट. सो अब बोला सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कि जो स्टेट लेजिस्लेशन रहेगी इट शुड बी रेड along with the rules framed for holding these events. So therefore there are no statutory violations now that warrant a ban on the Jallikattu. So this was the judgment, and if you want to go through this entire article, you want to read word by word, you can go through it also to have much more clarity, because we have done it before, so we are not going into much details of it, but I have explained you the gist of it. So what is WHO's guideline on non-sugar sweeteners? So why have the sweeteners like saccharin, they've been linked to diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and other ailments. And there was one question on this in the HCS also. So WHO, it issued new guidelines on 15th of May, जिसमें it is advised against the use of non-sugar sweeteners. Like we say ना, sugar-free drinks and all of that. So उसमें भी जो non-sugar sweeteners रहते हैं, even they are like hampering our health. Like aspartame, saccharin, stevia, and other derivatives, they are as healthy alternative to sugar. So in its conditional guidelines, WHO says that known sugar sweeteners, they should not be used as a means of achieving weight control or reducing the risk of diet-related non-communicable diseases. So even artificial स्वीटनर्स जो है, जो नॉन शुगर स्वीटनर्स है, उनमें शुगर नहीं है, बट जो उनका इफेक्ट है दैट इज वेरी स्वीट, उनका टेस्ट बहुत स्वीट होता है, तो इसलिए उनको यूज भी किया जाता है कि आपका जो शुगर इनटेक है आप उसको कम कर सकते हो, बट स्टिल वो आर्टिफिशियल है इन नेचर, तो वो अल्टीमेटली आपकी बॉडी को हैम्पर ही करने वाले हैं. सो स्पॉटलाइट ऑन एनएसएस इंटेंसिफाइड आफ्टर 2015 व्हेन वी सॉ कि WHO had said that high intake of free sugars is linked to weight gain and obesity, leading consumers to turn to NSS as an alternative. So what are non-sugar sweeteners? So जो non-sugar sweeteners हैं, they are marketed as low, या उनमें बहुत like calories होती ही नहीं है, because sugar intake से better वो है. This is what is we mean by non-sugar sweeteners, and they help in controlling the blood glucose in individuals which are suffering from diabetes. So these have been categorized, and you can just go through their names. These are the examples. So aspartame, it is popularly used to sweeten the diet colas that claim to have no sugars. So aspartame को जो diet coke होता है उसमें भी use किया जाता है. So saccharin, it is used to sweeten the tea or coffee. So saccharin का use वहाँ किया जाता है. So जो non-sugar sweeteners हैं, they are known to affect the gut. Rethink the diet cola, cautions a doctor. So these are ultimately not healthy, and you shouldn't continue, like you should not continue with them. So type 2, type 1 diabetes, क्या difference होता है, that's important. So अब क्या WHO की nutritional advice रहेगी? So it has said it is difficult to view the role of these non-sugar sweeteners in isolation when it comes to weight loss studies that were analyzed. So it is important to note कि जो quality है and quantity है of diet, they're also crucial in this matter. Definitely quality and quantity दोनों important है. So it recommends having alternative foods जहाँ पे मिनिमल प्रोसेसिंग की गई है. नेचुरल जितना आप खाओगे उतना ज्यादा आपके लिए हेल्दी रहेगा. जो अनस्वीटेंड फूड है, बेवरेजेस हैं, दे आर मच सेफर. And what happens next? So Ministry of Health, it will have to initiate discussions among the policy makers before it decides to adopt this conditional recommendation as a national policy. So WHO recommends that with the help of this guideline efforts, they should be made with a focus on youngsters to tweak the taste preferences and their eating behavior. So you need to have as much as possible like natural food items, have natural फूड एंड फ्रूट्स, एंड जितना आप प्रोसेस्ड फूड का इंटेक कम करोगे उतना आपके लिए हेल्दी एंड सेफर रहेगा. सो क्या जितना भी आप आउट ऑफ इंडिया पैसा खर्च करते हो, क्या हर एक एक्सपेंडिचर पे टैक्स लगाया जाएगा या नहीं लगाया जाएगा? सो ये अभी हमने देखा था कुछ टाइम पहले, जो क्रेडिट कार्ड से रिलेटेड चेंजेस किए गए हैं, स्पेंडिंग ऑन फॉरेन कंट्रीज, तो उससे रिगार्डिंग ये आया था कि जो आप क्रेडिट कार्ड यूज करोगे इन द फॉरेन कंट्रीज, दे वुड बी अंडर द लिबरलाइज्ड रेमिटेंसेस स्कीम, एंड उस पर 20% टैक्स लगाया जाएगा. सो इंडियंस, दे आर अलाउड टू रेमिट अप टू ओनली $2.5 lakh a year abroad under this LRS scheme. So this is the limit. And for the overseas tour packages, TCS rate, which is tax collected at source, it was to be raised from 5% to 20%. So similarly to 20% tax, it was proposed for all the remittances under the LRS. So payment of up to rupees 7 lakh on an international credit card, they have been exempted from the tax levy. So up to 7 lakh if you're spending, तो उस पे कोई tax नहीं है. And this is only for foreign spending. Domestically अगर आप credit card use कर रहे हो तो उसमें कोई भी changes नहीं है. उस पे tax rate को कोई भी increase नहीं किया गया है. सो जो बेसिकली इससे रिगार्डिंग फिर एक प्रॉपर डिबेट स्टार्ट हो गया. उसमें बोला जा रहा था कि जो 20% TCS लेवी है on credit card spends abroad would mean कि any such expenses made abroad barring for education and healthcare sector में they would entail additional funds of the taxpayer being blocked which they could either adjust against any advance tax payments or await refunds from the other income tax returns. So for IT refunds जो taxpayers हैं they may end up waiting as long as 15 months of if not more as each assessment year's taxes they are filed in the following financial year. So ये कुछ concerns थे and accordingly government ने थोड़े बहुत changes और किए. So एक तो ये 7 लाख वाली चीज इंट्रोड्यूस की गई कि if you're spending up to 7 lakh तो उस पर कोई टैक्स नहीं है. So reacting to the sharp retorts from the industry leaders, Finance Ministry issued a statement highlighting instances that have come to their notice under the where LRS payments they are disproportionately high when compared to the individual's disclosed incomes. So basically ये जो limit है, it is expected and estimated कि few people they are breaching it. So in order to check, ये step लिया गया है and so जो tax rate slab of 20%, it starts in the new regime for incomes over rupees 12 lakh and it is 30% for the incomes over rupees 15 lakh. So no immunity for president as contract party. Supreme Court rules government cannot claim immunity from the application of law to a contract merely because president is one party. So agar president it is a party, it is one of the parties to an agreement. So government claim nahi kar sakte hai immunity from the application of law. Definitely agar president is a member, so you can't say ki law ke supreme president hai. No, that's not true. And judgment comes on a petition filed by Austrian pistol maker Bloc Asia Pacific against the Union over the appointment of an arbiter to a dispute regarding a tender. So equal before the law, equality before the law की बात करें, Article 299 यहाँ पे mention किया गया है. It is regarding the contracts made by the union or state government in the name of president or governor does not give the government the power to break any law. Obviously, as we say कि India में there is constitutional supremacy. So nahi government, nahi president, they are supreme than the constitution or the law. So coming to Financial Express, here we see SEBI for more vigilance on the part of AMCs. So this is basically to check against the abuses and the frauds. So markets regulator SEBI has called upon the asset management companies to step up their surveillance activities and internal control systems to keep a check on the instances of market abuse and fraudulent transactions and ensuring an appropriate escalation and reporting mechanism. So with time we are seeing कि जो SEBI की regulatory actions हैं, it is basically making things much more strict in manner so that जो frauds हैं वो ना possible हो सके. ओके, सो बाकी इतना कुछ इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है आज के इस एडिशन में। We'll take up Indian Express newspaper now. So launch of PM Mitra Park. So एक तो आपको पता होना चाहिए, it is related to textile. So mega textile hub, it would be inaugurated in Madhya Pradesh at Bhansola. So special features would be that it would be spread over 1500 plus acres. It would be enabling spinning, dyeing, printing and garment manufacturing all at one location. So जो efficiency है basically वो increase हो पाएगी, and जो cost है, cost of production या cost हर एक step में वो भी reduce हो पाएगी. So it would be generating 2 lakh plus direct and indirect employment opportunities as well. So regarding climate, G7 sets 2050 as the net zero target for the major economies. So India का जो target है, that is by 2070, but G7 it is talking about major economies. So the target here is 2050. So wants the peak emissions by 2025, and उसके बाद we need to decline. We need to see a decline in the emissions. So demands may be ignored by nations like India. So what is actually net zero? कि जितना आप कार्बन एमिशंस कर रहे हो फिर आप उसको स्टोर भी कर रहे हो, so that is net zero. So net zero refers to a state wherein a country's greenhouse gases emission it is offset by absorption. या तो आप उनको absorb back कर लेते हो या उनको remove कर देते हो through futuristic technologies, so that the net emissions they are zero. मतलब atmosphere में वो emissions present नहीं है. So that is the simple meaning. So G7 countries आपको पता होना चाहिए कौन सी countries हैं. G7 की हम बात ऑलरेडी कर चुके हैं. इकोनॉमी में ₹2000 note withdrawal from the circulation. This has also been discussed in detail. So Japanese stocks, they are at 33-year high. Is it a clue for India also or not? So at a time when the global economies and markets, maybe we are seeing key different challenges are there from the economic perspective, like there is high inflation and high interest rate. But on the other side, we are seeing कि Japan के जो stock markets हैं, they are booming with stocks hitting their highest levels in 33 years. So what is the trigger behind this move? So big rise, we see जो broad topics index हैं, जो Japanese market में use किया जाता है, it rose by almost 0.6% on Tuesday, taking gains too far this year to 13.9% and close to its highest level since Japan's notorious market bubble burst in the final days of 1989. So this was this incidents in 1989. So मतलब एक bubble बनने लग जाता है market में, that is obviously on false basis. तो एक ऐसा time आता है कि that has to burst, and then we see the crisis and stocks crumbling down, crash देखने को मिलता है. So 1989 के बाद we are right now seeing कि Japanese market is at all-time high. So Nikkei is also an index which is formulated by the Japanese capital market. It has gained more than 16% since the start of the year, and it is again close to a post-bubble high, making Japan one of the hottest markets in the world. So मतलब अभी highest पे चल रहा है तो risk भी बहुत high होगा. So major reason is that Japanese board recently said it will request the companies trading below the book value to come up with the capital improvement plans starting this spring. So while just the latest in a long series of such directives from the TSE corporate and the market response, it has been surprisingly quick. So stocks rallied, propelled by growing hopes of higher governance standards and more serious regard for the shareholders after decades of lackluster returns. So ये दो main reason है कि जो it is basically rising on the basis of hopes of higher governance standards in the coming times. So on the basis of hope, we are seeing कि इतना ज़्यादा हमें increase देखने को मिल रहा है. So इसके वजह से foreign inflows जो हैं जापान में even they are increasing. India, it got just $2 billion of foreign inflows in 2023. Foreign investors deployed into the Japanese stocks and futures the past 5 weeks, जहाँ पे total net flow जो net inflows record किए गए, they were nearly $30 billion. India में it was just $2 billion. Japan it is $30 billion. So you can imagine how huge is the difference. So Japan is benefiting from a realization that Tokyo, it was a safe way of gaining the exposure to Chinese growth, but with less geopolitical risk. So एक ये angle भी है behind the increase. So G7 also calls for developing the global technical standards for artificial intelligence. So even artificial intelligence से related भी काफी सारे concerns है, एक proper like debate is going on regarding it. So उसके लिए भी global technical standards होना for its functioning and regulation is very important thing. So that is also being taken up by G7. So that's all for today. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for joining us, and do like this video and hit the subscription button for this channel. Thank you so much.